So just how big can your D&D game be? That's what we're going to explore in this podcast, and we're going to specifically look at the idea of a co-DM. Now, one of my longtime rules in D&D, but also in board gaming and wargaming, everyone has a seat at the table. Everyone gets to play. So if I have everything set up, we've got the 6 players, we're ready to go. Someone walks into the store, they're looking for a game. Do you have a character? If not, we'll draw one up really quick. Sit down and play. So I'm very, very flexible with players that can drop in or drop out. And I tend to like bigger games just from the perspective of social interaction and people coming up with amazing ideas, player personalities, character personalities, and the challenge of the players doing things that as a DM, I don't expect, because my thought process doesn't quite work that way. And that's really intriguing because now I need to resolve it in the story and I need to figure it out really fast in the moment so it looks like it's a natural part of the story. So I get excited towards, and I tend to gravitate towards bigger games. But the challenge here, of course, is the bookkeeping and keeping the flow of the game going so we don't break immersion, but also making sure that every player has a voice and every player is involved in the story, involved in the game. There is going to be a natural limit to how that can work. So many, many years ago, when I've been playing D&D for a couple of years, of course, I was the regular dungeon master, and a couple of other DMs were up and coming that we were working with. And it's, the eternal dream where the DM will get to kind of hand off the baton for a while and they'll get to play. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't work. And I'm going to make a note here for a future podcast. The DM is also a player in the game, avoiding DM burnout. So that's going to be important. One of the players in my group, Greg, he was new to D&D. I mean, brand new. We were maybe 2 or 3 months in. And one day early for one of our games, he was all set up. And I see he's making some maps. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, well, you're the DM. It's safe to show you. He's like, I basically created this like 13 level dungeon, Greg's dungeon, this massive dungeon that just sprawling rooms and corridors and traps and a lot of creativity, monsters that have no reason to be there, monsters that are randomly there, monsters that are super powerful, that are just going to nuke you on sight. I mean, just everything, but a lot of creativity. And he's like, I really want to run this adventure. He's like, I really want to run this adventure. He felt he could do it. All right, let's do it, right? Absolutely. Next week, we'll put the word out. We'll do it. And we put the word out. I show up to play because he's going to DM. I'm like, this is great. I get to play a game. I get to play the game. I was playing my fighter Lumaric at the time. And there's like, no joke, 23, 24, 25 people at the table. People I've never seen before. Somehow word got around because Greg was like, oh, I'm going to DM. Why don't you come? Why don't you play? Oh, you've never played D&D before. It's pretty cool. Why don't you come and play? This massive table on there. Very ambitious. I mean, and this was his first time as a DM. He did a great job, by the way. Party got totally killed by level 3, but we had a blast playing it. And I had said to him, look, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to be a co-DM. I don't need to know your dungeon. I don't need to know any of the traps or surprises. I'm not going to play an NPC. I'm going to sit down at the other side of the table. So this way, when there's initiative, I can track the initiative for you. We had a pizza box, and flipping the pizza box open, just writing the initiative track, and I was holding it up so everyone could see because, well, he was new to this, but also having that many players for your first game, and he did an amazing job. Someone to track the initiative, someone to do the bookkeeping, someone to say, okay, now, orc number 4 goes, orc number 5 goes, then the assassin Xanth in the party, he gets to go. That's huge as a DM. Doing that is an important part. Now, in a game of 4, 5, 6 players, the DM can multitask and simultaneously do that, figure out some rules, figure out the tactica on the tabletop, roll the dice. But once you scale up in big games, that bookkeeping slows down a lot. And the challenge with that is it kills immersion. Players sit around, wait for their turn. Maybe they're engaged. Oh, it is my turn. Wait, what was I going to do? Let me look that up again. Then it waits a little bit more. And I'm not talking about like an encounter taking like 40 minutes. 40-minute encounter is awesome if you're think the party's going to die and you're having a great time playing. So in the bigger games, I think once you get to like 8 or 10 players, that's where you want to bring in a co-DM. They might be able to know the story a little bit, but they're there to facilitate and help out. Now let's look at a real co-DM. And I have to be careful about this. This was an experiment that I ran at the time, and it was the closest in all the years I've been playing D&D and all the years I've been enjoying D&D. This is the closest where like it was almost like a table flip. It was, and it was a good idea, and I've used it since, and we've had a blast playing it. So this, I'm going to kind of condense it a little bit. Thieves Guild working in the area. If you played in my games, if it's not a dragon, it's a Thieves Guild. And the Thieves Guild had infiltrated the party of players. They sent one of their operatives, they sent one of their tappers in there, and the players were trying to find this artifact in a maze, and at the end of the maze is a wizard's tower, and you climb up there, and you battle that out, and you get the artifact. And the Thieves Guild wanted this artifact. So they're like, you're going to infiltrate the party, and at the last moment, you're going to get that artifact and steal it. Now, if I throw an NPC into the party, so it was an adventure, but it was like a mini campaign. There's going to be like 3 or 4 adventures in there, maybe 5. If I throw an NPC, it's immediately going to be suspect. Even if it's like day one, your best friend, players are like, well, dude, it's an NPC. You know, there's a story plot in there. Somehow you're going to do it. But what if it's one of the players? So one of the players in the group, they had experience being a DM. I said, look, you're going to make up a character. You're going to work for the Thieves Guild. And you're going to have the limitations of a character. I'm not going to bring you in on God mode or we're level 2 party and make you level 5. But you're going to have some advanced knowledge of the maze based on what the Thieves Guild has discovered. You're going to have a little bit more gold so you can buy some gear. And your job is to do whatever you have to do as a player to get the Thieves Guild, their motive, their operation, and to steal this artifact. And what was interesting was it could be hit or miss. It could be that this player, this co-DM, because he's aware of the background of what's going on, could fail, could very well fail. The party could fail, or he could succeed. Side note, always have a ring of feather falling. I mean, if we learned anything from Dragonlance, have the ability to feather fall. So he's playing in the party. He's a player. He draws up a character. He's a player. We're doing that. I feed him a little bit of out-of-game knowledge, but again, nothing that he wouldn't know as being part of this Thieves Guild. And he's kind of framing some other players. He's interacting. The group of players physically can't really figure out what's going on. They're suspect of the usual NPCs. We get to the wizard's tower. He grabs the artifact. I mean, he was playing a rogue anyway, so he grabs the artifact. But I give it to the rogue because, the rogue can take care of it. And my friend stands up. He starts laughing. He's like, the Thieves Guild, this and this. He's like, I'm a member. I'm an operative. And he jumps out the window. Activates Featherfall. Goes away with the artifact. The players in the party, the actual players are like, wait, what? What? He's part of the Thieves Guild, but he's a player. It's a PC. Like, we what? And it was very, very interesting. One of the players went like nuts. Was like, you betrayed us. And I'm like, no, I brought him in 4 games ago. And I'm like, look, this is the idea. And to play an NPC, but it's not an NPC. And obviously it worked because it was totally unsuspected with that. But that's another possibility. Just be aware. It could go anywhere. So ironically, all these years later, one of my friends who's always involved in my games in one way or another, when we're starting in a new campaign, and I've got like 6 or 7 players. As we're rolling up characters, session 0, we looked at that in one of the podcasts up to the channel here. He's like, before we begin, everyone at this table must swear a blood oath to the gods of the realm. There is no co-DM. There is no secret player. There's like, everyone is actually a player. I'm like, you can't do that. As the DM, I'm like, you can't do that. Like, we don't know. There could be things going on. You You can't make that, have everyone make that blood oath on there. But he's been around at a number of games, and he's a great sport when I have utilized that. So how big is a big game? 8, 10, 15 players. And how can you utilize a co-DM from the perspective of just keeping the initiative going, keeping the bookkeeping going, and keeping the other side of that table engaged? But also, how can you bring in a co-DM to take an NPC, play it like a player, and really, really, really have that be an important part of the game?